went to RSA partially because it's just in my backyard, and it was 20-minute trip to go over there and take a look. And I wanted to see there are two things that I was really interested in. First was to see how much AI washing and AI hype there would be at RSA. I knew there would be a lot, but I wanted to see it was a lot, or even more than that. And the other one was just because you all know that I love government stuff. I wanted to see the government security relationship and how that was reflected at RSA this year, because there were some last minute exits, let's say, due to the thinning of the federal government that has been happening in the past couple of months. Yeah, so there's some interesting stories that happened there. But before I get into the deeper stuff, one of my favorite things is that they were talking about is in the first half of this year, in the beginning of this year, we've been talking. The Fortune 500 has really noticed that there have been a lot of North Koreans trying to sneak into security departments and IT departments, especially in Fortune 500 companies. And they get in because, frankly, they get candidates who are very technically skilled, and they offer to be remote employees. They offer to work at a low price, and they sneak in. And once they get in, they act like spies. So this was actually
I read these.
yeah.
I read these articles you sent, and they were like shocking to me. I mean, my brain sort of was exploding in reading through these for any number of reasons. I mean, the first that I think it's hilarious that part of the job, of course, because North Korea is so encumbered, that part of the job is just to make money, just to collect the salary. But then, of course, they're doing this corporate espionage and hiring unwitting, like housewives from the Midwest that are sort of down in their luck to act as their. It sounds like they start unwitting, and then eventually they sort of figure it out, but the money's too good for them to pass it up, where they're running these laptop farms and stuff. I mean, just bewildering. And then the other half of this, how do you have an employee and miss this, right? Because they're very clearly not coming across as who they are, and so I'm sure we're going to post these links, but I highly encourage you, if you're a CIO, you absolutely need to be reading these articles and sort of alerting your hiring staff to make sure you're watching out for these signs, because they're obviously putting them in roles that are typically very heads down, where you're not having a lot of human sort of interaction, and they kind of get away with this, and it's scary stuff. It's like just mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm Korean, so the last thing I want is racism against Koreans. But if you've got somebody who's like applying as Brian Sutherfield, and then they show up and they have trouble speaking English and don't answer to Brian, like something's really weird with this interview. And maybe you shouldn't be hiring this person, no matter how good they look on paper and what they're able to answer in their technical interview.
Well, and I love that this article that you sent, their little fail-safe way of just making sure is to just throw in this random question about um, uh,
Kim Jong Un.
thank you, yes, and is it,
Yeah.
how fat is he or something, because they refuse to answer, so that they're gone. And
Yeah,
so
you,
it's like,
you can't say anything bad about our dear leader. So even on that phone call, which is probably tapped to begin with.
just wild. But it does show, and I mean, I think this is one of the reasons why I dislike covering security so much. It's an entire discipline. It requires, and it's one of the things that is so difficult for enterprise IT organizations, is that as we finally achieved our goal, right, as a IT or tech leader, the goal has always been for IT to sort of have a seat at the table, to be so critical and important to the enterprise that you had to be addressing this from this kind of strategic layer. And we've largely achieved that, right? It is now central to everything the enterprise does. But what that has really created is this massive risk plane. And this is just a classic example of something that you wouldn't, when you think about security, this isn't where your head goes. And yet, such a very real concern. So yeah, mind blowing stuff, and definitely should read the article. But